We're going to be starting off the show today by talking about the Boston Celtics dropping Game 2 as the Cleveland Cavaliers end up evening up the series. And this is something that, frankly, as much as the talent would absolutely say that the Celtics should easily be able to handle this series, they just cannot seem to get out of their own way. Now, I definitely do want to give credit to the Cavaliers where it's due, but I feel like the overall bigger picture here is the fact that the Boston Celtics, it seems like a little bit of a broken record that they can't seem to fully get out of their own way. And when they dropped Game 2 against the Miami Heat, that seemed like it should be the wake-up call to sort of help put the Celtics in the right direction. They were coming into the postseason after having the 1 seed locked up for just about a month. So, maybe needing a wake-up call is justifiable there. And they have been dominant in just about every win that they've had in the playoffs so far. But still, they just can't seem to, actually have that mentality of, on a nightly basis, go out and do your job. And last night, they end up losing 118-94. This was a tied game at half. And then the Cavaliers just ran away with it as Celtics had a very bad three-point shooting night. They were just 8 of 35. Now, again, credit to the Cavaliers for playing a role in that. It seemed like they were putting in their best effort to run the Celtics off of the three-point line a little bit. We know how much the Celtics love to shoot threes. They averaged just about 42.5 during the regular season. Attempts, that is, from three during the regular season. Last night shot 35, so 7 under their average during the regular season last night. And it was just a poor performance from a lot of their key shooters. We saw Derek White sort of finally come back to earth. He was on an absolute heater from the end of that Miami series, even through Game 1. But last night, he really struggled from three. He was 1 of 3. Jaylen Brown was 0 of 6 as well. So, at the end of the day, the 2024 version of the NBA is there's going to be three-point variance that sometimes is just unavoidable. But it seems like the Celtics, and granted, they are missing Kristaps Porzingis, who does play a part in what I'm about to say, but the idea of, at times, we've seen the Celtics be able to sort of at least add another layer to their game. And again, Porzingis plays a big part in the idea of being able to attack the paint. Without him, they are more limited. And last night was just sort of the old version of the Celtics, where they seemed very disjointed. It didn't seem like they were able to get quality looks when the shots weren't available on the perimeter. And the Cavs were, like I mentioned, blitzing the Celtics very hard to run them off of the three-point line, and Evan Mobley had a tremendous game. Obviously, the offensive numbers are going to stick out for him. A career high in terms of a playoff performance, 21 points in this game. But just as importantly, he was playing a massive role for the Cavaliers on defense, where he was contesting just about everything at the rim and at times in that mid-range as well. And that being said, Mobley was tremendous, and I want to touch on it more as we go on here, but there was a point in the third quarter with just about 5 minutes left where Mobley picked up a couple fouls on back-to-back defensive possessions that had him have to go out and sit. And during that time, the Celtics still weren't able to really get anything going offensively. Now, credit again to the Cavaliers for the defense they played, but the Celtics, it just seemed like they were settling for all of these bad shots. They were settling for a lot of mid-ranges, and that is not the game that they're used to. They were 29th in the NBA in mid-range frequency during the regular season. So, again, overall, it was just a very sloppy Celtics game. And the thing is, it wasn't even just they didn't even turn the ball over very often. They only turned it over, I believe it was 7 times in this game. So when I say sloppy, it's not that they were, giving the Cavaliers their opportunities. It was just the shot quality on a consistent basis wasn't there. The execution wasn't there. Now, there are a bunch of fingers that you can point. Don't want to overreact to one game necessarily, but we're seeing a couple players in particular that are struggling right now. The big conversation is, of course, Jason Tatum. Now, I thought that he was fine last night again, where it's not that he put out a bad performance necessarily. 25 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. He did a lot of his damage from the free throw line, which was not a bad thing because he was driving in to the rim, and it was clear that he was frustrated with his finishing himself, and that's been a conversation for the past few games here. But then he just it looked like he got discouraged and sort of abandoned it. Went to the free throw line 10 times in the first half, only 1 in the second half. So for Tatum, I don't know what it is with him. There's definitely a level of frustration from Celtics fans, but he himself is frustrated with the way that he is sort of putting the ball in the net right now. And I don't think that he's been bad by any means, but it just does not seem like he has that mental edge right now. And the efficiency that we've seen from him since his rookie season, and the Celtics have been in this playoff picture. So at the end of the day, the Celtics are a team that at least does have a lot of depth, despite what Tatum said after the post game, which was sort of, I didn't like personally the fact that he was sort of trying to downplay this super team idea. And I understand not having, being cocky, but confidence is a big thing. And I don't know, I probably personally would have rathered he said that, we just weren't good tonight and we know that we're the better team and we can get back there. But instead he's talking about regular season awards, how they only had 2 All-Stars, and just all of these other conversations that I would have preferred to see more of a level of accountability from him. Accountability is going to be something we talk about as the show goes on when we get into this Suns conversation. But, it is what it is right now for Tatum. Again, they can pass by for so long, considering the fact that they are the 1 seed in a less talented Eastern Conference. They don't necessarily need him to be the guy in terms of at least lead scoring every single game. But as the playoffs go on here, they are going to need him to perform more. And, we're going to have to sort of wait and see when he does decide to take it to this next level. Other player briefly here, again, don't want to bury anybody, 7 or so games into the playoffs, but we are seeing some regression from Jrue Holiday. They gave him this contract extension right at the end of the regular season, and hasn't been great for him so far. And this is a story because historically Jrue Holiday has been somebody that has had a little bit of a reputation of falling off some when the postseason comes around. Throughout his career, his shooting splits 46% from the field, 37% from 3. Then when you get to the playoffs, dips down to 42% and 33%. So far through the first 7 playoff games, he is shooting 36-32 clips. So definitely not efficient. His finishing at the rim is just abysmal right now, and that's definitely a theme for a lot of the Celtics players right now. And like I said, credit Evan Mobley for the defense that he's been playing at the rim as well, but underwhelming for sure for the Celtics. But on the Cavs side of this equation as well, I love this game for Donovan Mitchell. He had a clear emphasis in the first half versus the second half of, in the first half, he wanted to help elevate his teammates, try and get them involved. It has been a lot of the Donovan Mitchell show to start off these playoffs, and he was trying to get the playmaking going a little bit more. Had 8 assists in this game, most he's had since early April. April 10th, I believe, was the exact date when they played the Memphis Grizzlies. And there were real struggles going on with these other players. Darius Garland, we've talked about the fact that his efficiency has been way down as of late, and he was able to have himself a little bit of a bounce-back game thanks to Donovan Mitchell as well. Mitchell then, of course, when he felt like it was time to sort of step on the Celtics and pull away from this game. He got himself going in the third quarter again, was really feeling himself from three. And once he hit that banked three, where he was coming along the perimeter, it almost looked like he kind of stopped dead in his tracks because he was expecting Jaylen Brown, I should say, to carry his momentum through Mitchell and end up drawing the foul. Instead, he sort of shoots an awkward jump shot but ends up banking it in. I believe that was at the beginning of the fourth. I believe it was beginning of the fourth. Could have been. I know we also had that step back at the end of the third quarter as well. But at that point, it just felt like it was over for the Celtics, and just doesn't feel like they have that sort of mental makeup to be able to pull off these comebacks. But again, for Mitchell, loved what he did in this game. I thought the way that he and the Cavaliers as a whole really ran that pick and roll game, that was something that we were sort of looking at after game one. The fact that the Celtics were leaving a lot open on the three-point line, and that was part of it, but also the fact that they were getting to the paint at will as well. And Celtics definitely need to sort of look at some of the lineup stuff with them. The double bigs of Luke Cornett and Al Horford, I just don't really understand what you're trying to do in those minutes, and especially because you're not taking away the paint. Evan Mobley has definitely enjoyed the matchup against Luke Cornett up to this point. Saw him getting himself going in the fourth quarter the other night. Now last night, like I mentioned, career high playoffs-wise, 21 points in this game, so that was great to see for him. Like I mentioned, Garland, especially in that third quarter, was getting the threes to fall as well. He ends up 5 of 8 from the field, 4 of 8 from 3. Still probably has another level to go up to, but at the same time, it was just baby steps here after some really rough Garland performances, and now they're going to go back to Cleveland, where they have been an incredible home team, at least through the Orlando Magic series, so they definitely have a chance to potentially, really put the pressure on the Boston Celtics. Now, interesting, again, when we talk about three-point variance, the 2 times the Celtics have lost so far in this postseason have been with opponents shooting incredibly well from 3. It was a historic mark for the Miami Heat when they stole Game 2 from the Celtics. This time around, the Heat, when the starters left the game, they were 13 of 25 from 3, so they were also red hot, above 50%, but also, ultimately here, that's not too much of an excuse, because it's the Celtics being willing to give up these looks to the players they don't think are going to burn them, and you just can't give away these types of games. And I understand for the Cavaliers, they were 15th out of 16 playoff teams in terms of three-point shooting heading into that Game 2 matchup, but you got to put some pressure on them, and you can't just give them these wide open looks, especially when you go back to Cleveland, where it feels like the rim is just always a little bit bigger for that home team. So I don't think the Celtics are going to have too much of an issue coming back, but at the same time, this inconsistency that they have is definitely a cause for concern, whether you want to look at it from the perspective of this series or the playoffs as a whole. You look at in the Western Conference, where Anthony Edwards is giving quotes about how he just wants to kill everything in front of him, and Tatum is sort of downplaying the talent that is on the Celtics roster. It seems like not cut from the same cloth right now, and it is definitely a concern. We have these concerns about the Celtics just about every year. Seemed like maybe that Game 2 in the Heat series was the wake-up call, but Celtics come out flat again and are now headed into Cleveland needing to take at least one of them, but probably need to take both of them. I don't think that they should have too much of a problem doing so, but definitely a possibility. Let me know what you think in the comment section about the rest of this series. Their Game 3 matchup, if I can double check real quick, is going to be Saturday night, so we'll see how this plays out for them. But on that note, we are going to be taking our first break of the show, and when we come back on the other side, I want to talk about the late game from last night, which saw the Oklahoma City Thunder losing as well at home to the Dallas Mavericks. So stick with us, and we will be right back.